So starting off with the first troop that needs a nerf, it's gonna be the Barbarians, but more specifically, the Barbarians at Ultimate form. Now for this tier list, I am gonna be specific by what forms I mean if it's a troop that's overpowered at a certain level. So if you don't have an Ultimate Barbarian, then he's just fine. He's a good unit, but Ultimate Barbarian is broken and needs a nerf. Now the nerf that I want to see for the Ultimate Barbarian would be that the little mini elite Barbarian just wasn't elite. I think that would be more than enough to start off with to see how good the troop is, because an elite Barbarian is so much better than just a basic Barbarian. It does a lot more damage. So if you can just make it a non-elite Barbarian, maybe it'll still be really, really good, but it won't be completely busted to the point where I can wipe out an entire lobby in 2 minutes, which I've done before. I also think that when the mini Barbarian dies, you shouldn't drop gems, because at the moment it drops gems because it's counted as a part of your squad. I don't think it should drop gems, but I also think it should not have an elite Barbarian. Next up, we have the Archer. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys think she needs a buff, but I actually think she's fine. If you are gonna buff her though, I would suggest giving her a couple more hit points, but for the most part, she's actually a really good unit, and if you know how to use the Archer, I'm sure a lot of you guys have used her correctly, and you realize you can wipe out entire squad. She's actually pretty good, but if you're gonna buff her, just a little bit of health, nothing else. We also have the Royale King. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys are thinking he needs a buff, but I don't think he needs a buff. I just think he needs a rework, and the rework doesn't mean changing his stats, in my opinion. I think it's just changing how the mini Royal Recruits work. So I think rather than the Royal Recruits just going wherever they want in the map, they should follow your squad, like that old Mega Royal Recruit. Do you guys remember a long time ago they released a Royal Recruit Mega, and the recruits would actually follow your squad around? That's what it should be for this troop here. It wouldn't even be broken. It wouldn't even be overpowered. It wouldn't be as good as the Barb King, Archer Queen, or Colonel Ruffs, but it would actually be a decent epic. It wouldn't be a dumb epic. It would be decent, and it would be usable. We also have the Archer Queen. I think the Archer Queen is a good unit. It's fine. Doesn't need any changes. The Expo spell isn't really OP. It makes all your long-range units attack faster. It's good. We also have Bo. I think Bo needs a buff, not a rework, but a buff. I think she needs to do so much more damage to monsters to the point where you just have to pick her if you want a good start. Or you don't have to pick her, but you get what I mean. She does a lot more damage to monsters, but not enough for it to be worth it. He also probably needs to have more health as well. I think that's also kind of important. Just more damage, definitely against monsters. We also have the Bandit. I think the Bandit is fine. It's a good unit. I will say at Ultra form, it's much better than Super form, but it's still a good unit, and it doesn't need a buff or a nerf. Battle Healer again, it's fine. Very decent epic, and I just wish the Royale King was decent as well. Next up, we have the Ultra Barbarian King. I think it needs a nerf. Not the Barbarian King at other levels, only at Ultra form, because you get a super rage spell, and if you don't have a super rage spell and you're in a lobby with other people with a Barbarian King at Ultra form, you're at a huge disadvantage, and pretty much for the final 1 minute of a game, if you don't have an Ultra Barb King, there's nothing you can do. You just have to stay out of the way of the people who do have Ultra Barb Kings. I'm thinking they should nerf it, so instead of doing 100% more damage for the super rage, it should do 80% more damage, and then the normal rage spell should do 50%, not 60%, and then I also think they should last less long as well in duration. We also have B. Nothing wrong with B. I think it's fine. We have the Chicken. Now, this is interesting because if you have a Hog Rider in rotation, it doesn't do anything, but if you don't have a Chicken in rotation, then it's a decent unit to pick. I think it kind of just depends on your rotation. We'll say the Chicken's fine for now. Next up, we have Colt. I actually think Colt needs a buff. I don't know what to think about Colt. I don't pick him a lot. I think he needs some more health. I think that's how you make Colt good. Give him a little bit more health. His damage is fine. He can go through units, which is good as well. Give him an extra 100, 200 health, and then we'll see how it goes from there. That wouldn't make him broken. I think that would make him a little bit more viable. Dynamite, it's a good unit. It's fine. It used to be really bad, but it started getting a couple buffs, and now it's actually pretty good. Elite 1, very good unit as well. A lot of people think Optimus Prime is better. I think Elite is better. El Primo, I think, okay, he received some buffs recently, but I still think he needs more buffs. I'm thinking either he needs to do more damage or he needs to do more damage when he does his elbow ability. Either way, he needs to do more damage. I don't think he's that good. His stunning is decent, or maybe they should make it so his elbow ability happens even more often. He's not bad. He's definitely usable. Just think he needs a little tiny bit more to be even better. We have Dr. T next. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to think he needs a buff, but I think it's similar to the Royale King. He doesn't need a buff. He needs a complete rework, because at the moment, Dr. T just spawns in a Mark 1 crab, then a Mark 2 crab if you have him at Classic, then a Mark 3, then a Mark 4, then a Mark 5 if you get him to Ultimate. I know we don't have an Ultimate Dr. T yet, but let's be honest, that's probably what his Ultimate ability is going to be. So instead, I think every single ability should be something new. So a Dr. T crab spawns in at baby form. Maybe at Classic form, he moves 20% faster. At Super form, he does 20% more damage. And at Ultra form, maybe he does a bunch of splash damage, and then at ultimate form, maybe he moves 50% faster, and he's a pretty quick crab that does a lot of damage, or you could just increase his attack speed. But I think every ability should increase one thing off the crab, rather than just increasing the health and the damage a little bit, because that's all that you get from a Mark 2, 3, 4, 5 crab. Goblin, I think Goblin needs a buff, not at ultimate form, but at the lower forms. He's really useless until you get him at ultimate form. At ultimate form, he's usable. Not OP, not amazing. He's usable. Like, you can use him in a squad. He's not a bad pick. But every other form, don't pick a Goblin. He's bad. I think the buff that they would need to do is make it so you get a bunch more coins when he spawns in, or making it so you get 1 coin for killing a monster. I think that would be a good baby form ability, or maybe a classic form ability. I guess that would be a little bit of a rework, though, wouldn't it be? I don't know. Either a rework or a buff. We're going to leave it in buff, though. Greg, I think Greg's fine. He's a good unit. Heavy. Oh, this one's interesting. A lot of you guys won't know, but back in the beta of Squad Busters, Heavy used to be an epic unit, and his ability was he would make all your long-range units attack faster. Does that sound familiar? Well, that's what the Archer Queen does now, and that's what Heavy used to do, and then they made him a common and really bad. I think he needs a rework. I don't think he needs a buff. I think he just needs to be completely changed now. I don't like the fact that you have to stand still for a bunch of time for him to actually do much damage, and the bullets don't seem to land half the time when there's a moving target. I think he needs a rework. What should that rework be? I don't know. I actually don't know. Maybe they could do the opposite. He does a bunch of damage when you're first standing still, and then the longer you stand still for, the less damage he does. That way, you'd get rewarded for moving around a little bit more. That would actually add some skill into the game, I think. I like that idea. Hog Rider, a very good OP unit. I think it's fine. Although what I will say is if you don't have an Ultra Hog Rider, you are kind of screwed in games. But it's not like an Ultra Barb King where you could just wipe out a squad in 2 seconds, you know? But I think it's fine, but it's really OP at Ultra form. Ice Wizard, I actually think Ice Wizard needs a little nerf. I'm not going to put it at the top of nerf. Actually, I'm going to put it at the bottom of nerf. I don't think it needs a complete nerf. So I'm sure we've all seen those clips where you just wipe out an entire squad with the Ice Wizard. And I think that just shouldn't be the case. There shouldn't be a troop in the game to wipe out an entire squad by itself in like 1 hit. That's just not right. What I think it should do is when he throws out his 6 ice fans, which like, you know, spread out a lot, I think instead they should spread out less. So less splash damage, and maybe you just take out like 4 or 5 of people's troops in one go rather than an entire squad, if you get what I mean. Jesse, I think Jesse's fine. A very good unit. Turrets are definitely good. Leon, I don't find myself picking Leon much. I don't like him, but I think he's fine. The invisibility spell is good for that extra turbo, and people can't attack you while you're running away from them because, well, you're invisible, so you're impossible to be attacked. I think he's fine. Mavis is fine, although what I will say is if you don't have a Mavis at Ultra form, kind of useless. I've realized that on my free-to-play account, I don't like picking Mavis much. Not very useful. On my pay-to-win account, though, very good unit. Max, I think she's fine. Good unit. Medic definitely needs a buff. It does not stand anywhere near as good as Pam or especially Poco. Poco is the best healer in the game. In fact, the Trader's a better healer than the Medic. The Medic, you have to just stand still for ages if you want that passive healing. I think what they should do is make it when you're standing still, the Medic really heals you very quickly, like within 2 or 3 seconds. That way you can stand still for a couple seconds, instantly get back to full health rather than standing still for like 10 seconds just to heal your squad fully. Miner is a very good unit, but we're gonna leave it in. It's fine. Mortis, I like Mortis. I don't think you can buff or nerf Mortis. I think the way Mortis works is it depends on the map that you're playing. If you're playing on a map like the Ice World, bad. Spooky World, he's OP. So there you go. Nita needs a buff, 100%. I was thinking maybe a rework, but no, I think a buff. I think that bear in the squad with Nita needs to be mega tanky, like something that is a pain to kill. And then I think Nita would be a little bit more usable, but who really uses Nita? She's bad. She doesn't do anything. She doesn't do damage. She's not even a good tanky unit. That bear needs to be really tanky to be useful. Optimus Prime, he's fine. I actually think Optimus Prime is worth an Elite 1. Still a good unit though, because it's just so hard to take out. If anything, I would say give him a little bit more damage and then take away a bit of his health. That's what I wouldn't mind seeing for him, but I think he's fine. Pam, again, a decent healer, much better than the Medic. Don't think it needs a buff or a nerf. At least you can heal quite quickly. Witch, I think the Witch needs a rework. Not a buff, but a rework. And hear me out. I'm thinking what they should do for the Witch is they should make the Witch a rare unit, not an epic unit. Why would you ever pick the Witch in the final minute of a game? And I don't think the Witch can ever be good as an epic unit without making her do ridiculous amounts of damage. I think think the best thing for the witch is you either make her a rare or you make her a common even. That way you can get her early on, because the witch is good early on to farm. Later in the game, completely useless. Well, not completely useless, but you get what I mean. She needs to be reworked. Penny, a good unit, will go in, it's fine. Shelly, again, a good unit, it goes in, it's fine. Tank, again, it's fine. Although tank is pretty OP, I'll admit, but I think it's not disgustingly overpowered. Trader is a very good unit. Now, I would say you should nerf him a while back, but I don't think he needs a nerf. I've been playing tournaments recently where I've been up against pro players, and if you run a trader in a game where there's a bunch of other good players, they will punish you severely. So I think the trader goes into it's fine, doesn't need a nerf. I think if this game got a lot more active and people up in squad league were a lot better, I think people would realize the trader actually isn't as OP as they think it is. Next up, we have Frank. Now for Frank, I think he does need a buff, but more importantly, a rework. So at his ultra form, he will slam a shockwave when fully charged. What this means is when you take 8 consecutive hits in a row, you can then stun your enemy on your next hit. But to take 8 hits in a row, you're just going to lose your entire squad in that time. I think that needs to be changed. Maybe instead, every 3 hits, he charges up his shockwave and then boom, it stuns your enemies, and then make him have a little bit more damage. Maybe you could remove a little bit of his health in return for giving him more damage. I just think he needs a rework, not just improving his stats, but changing the way, especially that an ultra ability works. Next up, we have the wizard. Definitely needs a rework in my opinion. I think one of his abilities should actually be he changes normal spells into their super forms. So instead of getting a normal freeze, you get a super freeze, maybe at ultra or ultimate for his ability. But I do think he needs a rework, not just increasing his stats, but changing up his abilities a little bit. We have Colonel Ruffs, you know, where he's gonna go right next to the Barb King because he needs a nerf. He is really broken, especially if you get him early on in a game. I'm thinking at least one of his nerfs should be you can't get a Colonel Ruffs unless it's the final minute, or just making it so if you get a Colonel Ruffs at the start of the game, everyone gets one at the start of the game. It's really unfair to get a Colonel Ruffs early on, but maybe making it so he can only fuse up a unit in your squad when he fuses up himself. That would be a good way to nerf him. Maybe in return, you could make it so instead of getting a lucky find every 6 chests, it's every 4 chests, but that would be my nerf for him. And then finally, we have Poco, the best healer in the game. He's fine. He's fine. Anyways, we're going to be getting the balance changes in literally a couple days for the squad up on Saturday. So let's see if any of these troops get nerfed, buffed, or reworked. So remember to use code Claz in the Squad Busters shop if you ever do decide to buy anything, and check out my last video on screen right here, and I'll see you there. Bye-bye.